session, we will talk about belting and what belting is from our perspectives. And we are doing some easy to follow exercise, and you can practice at home, and you will hopefully get a better understanding of what belting is all about. So, before we start, please share this link so others that love singing also can take part of this knowledge. So, here we go. My name is Cecilia, and I'm a vocal coach and singing teacher with a degree from the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. And I have been teaching for over 20 years, and I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to singing techniques, and I love to dissect and isolate every part of the singing instrument and do so with all kinds of exercises, and then put everything together in order to create a freer voice with the ability to make the sound of your own choice. So that is me. So now I'm going to hand over the mic to my lovely colleagues for a short presentation of themselves. So, Matilda, are you ready?
I'm ready. Nice to be here again on this lovely Thursday. I'm Matilda Lindell, and I'm a singer and a voice coach. Also, I also went to the music college in Stockholm, and also since I graduated, I've been kept on studying, nerding out with all things voice, and among other things, I'm a certified Estelle Master trainer in Estelle voice training. And well, speaking of today's topic, I am touring a lot with an ABBA tribute act in the US, and there is a lot of belting going on there. So that's also what I do a lot of the time as a freelance singer. So today will be fun. How about you, Anna?
How about me? Nice to be back. I'm still in vacay mode. Been away for 2 weeks. I am Anna Wiborg, and I run my business, Anna Wiborg Vocals, and I did not go to the Music University in Stockholm, but in Örebro, another city in Sweden. I am a voice coach, singing teacher, singer, lecturer, and my singing philosophy is mind, body, and soul. And I apply my holistic view on, well, everything that I do, but on singing and voice in general. I'm also studying at the moment to become a holistic health and lifestyle coach. My speciality is gospel singing, which also has a lot of belt. And I work a lot with gospel singing for Europeans. I have done research in Europe and US about the difference between our cultures and histories, dialects, and how that affects how we sing. And I teach how and what we can learn from each other. I do have an old podcast. I just thought about it. It's the most of it is in Swedish. It's called Gör din röst hörd, and you can find it through my name on iTunes and wherever podcasts are to be found, I think. And I talk about singing with it's me and my colleague who talk about singing and talking and different kind of behavioral between Europe and America, how we behave, etc. Communication, I would say it's communication mostly, and then singing and voice. And yeah, well, to me, singing is so much more than the right technique, although that is a good place to start. Do you want me to continue, Cecilia?
Yeah, that would be great because you're up next, so you can just continue on your.
All right, so let's just start with a little bit of a warm-up. And I always start with the body warm-up. So if you can just stand up and shake shake your body, like shake your butt and shake everything just to let loose a little bit. And then you can start rolling your shoulders. Roll. I'm rolling, that's why I'm quiet. And then you can roll your hips to one side, like Shakira. Other side, make a big circle. Yes, and move to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back, to the side, to the side, to the side, to the side, to the front, to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back, and roll like Shakira. Hips don't lie. Yes, and then what do you say? Sprattla. How do you say that in English? Sprattla. Matilda, help me.
I have no idea. I have no
Sprattla with your fingers.
Yeah,
How would you
like
say that?
move everything. I don't know.
Move your fingers and toes, like, you know. I don't know the English word what it would be. Yes, good. And then we can do just make a noise and do what kids do. So you make a long like or whatever note feels good for you, and then you do like stand on your toes, and then you just let go. So you make this sound. So stand on your toes and then back on your heels with a bump. And you can do different notes if you want. And everything should be like jello, like shaking like jello. So relax everything. Okay, and then I will do a little bit more, but first I'm gonna talk about belting. Let me see. So belting. This word that I know a lot of singers have heard about from different kind of teachers and singers and TV shows, and yeah. And this, well, to be honest, this word is something that coaches, teachers, methods fight about. What is belting? And the definitions are a little bit different depending on what method you're using. And definitions of words takes a long time to get like stuck. And this new way of singing, if you're singing pop styles, it's pretty new. It only has a few decades on its shoulders compared to classical music, which has like 2,000 years of defining definitions of different kind of words. So it's nothing weird about the definitions being struggled with a little bit. And belting, I know a lot of singers that are scared of belting, maybe because it can be a big sound, and also it can be, yeah, maybe you don't want to make that loud noise. Belting comes from the word belt out, which is call, a cry, a shout, a holler. In Sweden we say ropa. I don't know if I have any German friends here. They say, I think it's rufen. In Spanish, I think it's gritar or something. And the thing is, belting is something that we all do. We have all done it, and we all do it because it's in our DNA to belt. And the history of belt is that it comes from folk music. It comes from farmers and the way that we called each other or called the animals when we didn't have any cell phones or any digital, what's it called, technique to make bigger sounds. So we all have it from I mean, since man was created. And in Sweden we have this famous show Emil i Lönneberga, and then they call the cows Cosera. And I know in Spain they call the goats Ey. So it's a way to make a sound that's not hurting you, and it's reached over the fields far away, and that has jumped into the way of singing. And in Sweden we have it in the singing called jojk, for example. It can be a loud and big sound, and we can hear it on the playground when the kids play, and we can hear it in sports games. Oh, the fan clubs when they call the soccer game, that the soccer team that they're rooting for. And okay, let me ask you, can you think of some situation or some time that you have done or have heard this belt sound? Write in the comments. Maybe you have been to a championship. Or maybe you have heard your mom or dad called, "Dinner is ready." So it's a call, it's a belt that's in our DNA. And this sound exists in any folk music that you have heard. And that folk music, the American folk music, which was, to simplify, country and gospel, the black and white folk music in America, it developed and is now pop music. So this sound that we used on the fields was put in the singing, put in the music, and now exists in pop music, rock music, almost any kind of contemporary music, musicals, everything. We use belt a lot. And I like to find this sound by using this call that you can, if you want to try. Oh yeah, Cecilia, you said when you try to call someone on distance. Yes, so when you're standing on the other side of the field and you want to call someone, "I'm over here." So it's basically a call that's transmitted into singing. If you think about this, "Dinner is ready," and then you think about Christina Aguilera, "Hey!" So she's just calling "dinner is ready" without "dinner is ready" words. So if you want to try, you can do this, "Uh-oh," or "eh." "Uh-oh." That's the way that I like to find the belt sound, and that all of my students, most of my students, find it by only that simple thing. "Uh-oh." "Uh-oh." Try "eh." And if you don't feel it like in your throat, then you're finding the placement of the sound. "Eh. Uh-oh." And I think I agree with you, Matilda. You always talk about how fun it is to belt. And I agree, because I don't know what it is. It's fun to sing loud, to be able to sing loud or a lot and not hurt. So yeah, that's the history of belting, belt out. And one thing that is so important is that it's a huge difference between belt, to call belt, or scream. Because a lot of people say that, but it feels like I'm just screaming. No, you're not screaming, because screaming is not healthy for you. But calling, belt, that's healthy. That's a sound that you can use without hurting. Yes. Any questions? Matilda, you're writing just a happy face on the comments. What does it mean?
When you talked about belting being fun.
Yeah. Okay. It is.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can be so like dynamic. You
Yeah.
can and emotional.
Yes.
So it's
And it
it's
is
fun.
it can be very like technical and easy and just do it because you just need to get the sound out, but it can be so emotional, and to me that's very much like the folk music history. Like the joik, for example, in Sweden, it was just about to get like emotions out. That's the joik, like just to belt it out. And that's only based on emotions. That's very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. And I find belting also kind of you need a really good core, because sometimes it's hard work. You have to put a lot of body behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Anna, for that
Thank you.
history lesson. Really good. So,
Who knew that it would be history time in this club?
really good. Love it. So, Matilda, are you up for your belting
Yeah,
turn? Yeah. So,
sure. So as Anna was saying about like what is belting, and we say belt about different things, and it's very confusing sometimes what it is, and it's not just screaming. But for me, I what defines belting for me is that calling sensation, but it's also when something physical is happening inside of your larynx that actually helps your vocal folds come together for a longer closed phase. So the vocal folds get help to get a little bit thicker, and that you can understand if the vocal folds are closed longer and gets a little bit thicker, it will be a more rich, full sound. So that's why it also gets to be emotional and all of that. Our voice can create amazing stuff. Um, so in Estil voice training, if you are familiar with Estil voice training or not, they are teaching, their method about teaching voice is isolating each part of the voice, so to speak, each structure, and then put them together to voice qualities, just for to actually just to practice to put them together and to use them in a healthy way. And it's all we always talk about most comfortable vocal effort, for anything from opera to belting to sob to speech quality to falsetto, whatever you're doing. And it's just so in Estil voice training, there we call it like an Estil belt is sort of comprised of kind of thick vocal fold body cover and slightly raised larynx, a high tongue, and to really have that call going on. And also this feature that I was telling you about that helps the vocal fold come together, and that is cricoid tilt. So it is a cartilage inside of your larynx tilting, or it's no one knows exactly, because research is lacking. As Anna said, it's been so much research going on classical, especially male singers, but in belting and more pop styles, the research is not as advanced yet, unfortunately. So we don't know when something happens and we think it's a cartilage tilting forward, to sort of help the vocal folds come together for a longer closed phase, and they probably get a little bit thicker. And when this thing is kicking in, that is belting to me. Even though in the Estelle voice training sort of recipe for belting, it is kind of in a low range, and it's kind of narrow. It's kind of Mona Lisa. They sort of have Ethel Merman's as their belting sound character. And I'm Swedish. I didn't even know who Ethel Merman was when I started studying Estelle voice training. So it was fun. I learned on the way. But also in Estelle voice training, even though we learn that quality with kind of a thicker fold, not too high, honestly. It's not too high and very narrow and ringy. It's just a way of learning it. So there are plenty of permutation of this. And I would say the thing that just defines that it is belting is this feature cricoid tilt, and that you are in some kind of vocal fold activity, like the muscles within the vocal folds are like activated. So you're not above your break. You're not, then I would probably call it something else, even though it can sound belty, but I would then probably teach it a little bit different. But still, as long as it's a calling sound and it's healthy, you can probably call it belting. So we're going to try to just find this feature cricoid tilt to see just what it has for effect on your voice. And I actually have a free training on this that you can just subscribe to, sign up for. I can put the link later in the comments, but it is matildalindellvoicestudio.com/the secret to making your high notes fly. So this feature is really for that, because if you don't practice this feature, it will be hard to make those high notes fly. It will not feel effortless when your belting is getting higher. Then it would probably feel like you're screaming, and it will not be healthy. So we need that sort of help to get the vocal folds together. So I'm just going to do a very short thing, because you can dive right into this belting training where you get many tools and strategies to find this thing. But let's find it together here. So to find this movement inside of the larynx, it's good to start on a like thick vocal fold, because since we want the vocal folds to get thicker, it's good to start on already thick folds just to find this. It doesn't mean that we need to use thick vocal folds when we're belting or anything like that. It's just easier to find. And if you practice too high up to find it, we can add other things, and then it's hard to find it. So just some speaking range pitch. We can even do a little bit of slack folds before and just say an eh. So like slack folds is just this sound where you're super relaxed, and then you can do one of those glottal or hard onsets that actually Anna showed us in the just there, and you're just sitting or standing looking forward. And now if you sing your note and then you look up, and I mean it, look straight up. Don't think about your teacher when you were younger who said don't raise your chin. So just raise your head. Tell me what happened to the sound. If it's easier, you can also stop in between, raise your head, and then do your note from there. Let me know in the chat if you have any sensations. So just find a kind of speech range note on e, and then look up, just sing the note again. What happens? Do you feel anything? Do you feel anything, and what happens to the sound? Feels comfortable. That's good. Does it feel sort of more comfortable? Do you mean more easy than when you were looking forward? You will never look down again. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So this is if you have seen your favorite singer standing with the microphone, actually looking up when belting, like yeah, and they raise their head. It is because then physically we get this movement happening without really doing anything, without using our muscles or so. It's like it's just happening as a physical prompt, because you have two cartilage, like your eaves or Adam's apple. It's the bump. If you just feel your larynx, the biggest bump there is your eaves apple, and that's your thyroid cartilage. Just below that is your cricoid. And when we tilt the cricoid, the space between these two cartilages will sort of increase. So they will go from each other. So imagine if you look up, automatically we increase this space between these two cartilages. And then on the back end, this sensation is happening that the vocal folds come together more. They get a little bit thicker. You don't really have to know. I'm explaining all of this in the training better, but you don't really need to know what's going on, except for you need this thing to happen. And it is good to know what's going on so you can apply it to other things and to use it in your higher range, or etc., etc. So this is super, super useful and easier to find in a slightly lower range. You can also, if you have a hard time finding it sort of in your speaking range, you can sometimes need to put a little bit more body to it and do it a little bit more like an impulse. Like Anna said, we have these sounds naturally because we had to call for this or call for that. So if you just, for instance, shout for joy, if your favorite team scores in a football game, or your favorite song wins in the Eurovision Song Contest, you're like, yay, yes, they won. Try that to really like go into the role of like, yay, really being super full of joy, but shouting out of joy and like calling it out, and see if that also can trigger this movement to happen. There's so many prompts to get there, but I'm just going to give you these. So this is like the fundamental thing of belting. So did you find it with a joyful call, or was it easier to look up? Which one worked better for you? Remember, you need to play the part, or else it won't work. So funny that like newborn babies, they can just make all the sounds when they're like babies. I mean, for the small, tiny vocal folds they have, but they don't think, they just do. They just do instinctively all the things. without getting hoarse or without. So we need to like play the part to get these instinct things to happen. So whatever one works better for you, you have more. I will do the call while looking up. Perfect. Honestly, that is the best way to do it, Cecilia. Then you need to, even when you can, of course, do this looking forward and just have like your muscles actually working inside to get this happening. But it will always be better if you at least think inside a little bit of throwing your head back or just looking up a tiny bit. It will get better. But I like that. I will do the call while looking up. I give you many more prompts and many more variations on this in the free training. So you don't want to miss out on that. Anyhow, so this is how I identify belting. If this ingredient is in there and it is a calling sound, it is probably there. You can use this feature, cricoid tilt, when you're not belting too. It's actually super, super, super healthy. So for it to be belting, we need to hear that calling sensation as well. But this ingredient, so to speak, needs to be there for me to identify it as belting. And for me to know that for me or my students that it is safe to perform, that they won't start pushing or cough or lose their power or flip into head voice or whatever they don't want to do. They will keep the power. This is a great way to get help with your belting, so to speak.
Atilda, can I
Yeah.
ask you a question? Or maybe if you could define this, what I said, the difference between screaming and belting, because I have, like you said, a lot of students get afraid of making a big, loud sound, or maybe afraid of getting hurt because for some reason we have in our head, a lot of people have in our heads that to make a louder sound is dangerous. And that it feels like I'm screaming. So what would you say is, how would you know if you're like pushing over the edge to screaming? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and great question. So,
Yes, good.
So the most common thing when belting and reaching high and want that powerful sound is that we think that we need a lot of air, for instance. And that is number one. In belting, we don't need a lot of air. We just think we do that, but you need less air since the vocal folds are working on their own. Like we need some air to get the vocal folds together. But if we have another mechanism helping us put the vocal folds together, we'll need less air. And that will help us to not have that sensation of screaming. Because when we push air, we will we will ruin our setup, our belting setup. It's like then the air wants to blow the vocal folds apart, and then our false vocal folds that are above our true vocal folds will try to come in and like help us keep them together. And that's when we start to sound like this, and when we're like constricting and start to push. So if we do less air, let the cricoid tilt work, then the vocal fold can just do their thing, and we belt instead of scream. There is, of course, so many other things, but that is like such a common thing that we just think we need so much air and like push it. We don't need to push anything.
No. Only if it's a long phrase, we need a lot of air to keep the flow.
Yeah, but we need, yes, but in comparison, we don't,
Comparison to the big mama sound.
Yeah, exactly. But also, when we do those long notes or so, you need a lot of body. You need a lot of anchor in your body to stabilize this setup that you set up in your little larynx with your tiny vocal folds, right? You need to just, your body can work, but not so much. It's more about controlling the air. It's not so much about having a lot of air.
And if I can jump in, my way of teaching is a lot about placement of the notes, like visualizing where the note is. And if you put it like far in the back, which is more a European classical way of singing, that also adds a lot of that it's harder to find the belt. But if you feel like the belt is in the front, like A, O, in the front of your mask, what would you say, the mouth, the mask, and not in the back, O, because it's really hard to belt with the placement of the notes further back.
Yeah, and well, this is an interesting topic actually, because it depends on what you're already doing. So what I was talking about before, like why we started like in like speech range, we didn't really belt like we hear pop belting. We didn't like we didn't do that. It's because I didn't want us to do so much other stuff in our vocal tract to actually not have room to do this movement, cricoid tilt. So depending on what you're already doing, if someone comes and like, hard for that person to find like the rich sound, belting, like the full on. So the person will last higher up and long, even though that it's a fine sound, but if you want to belt, it will not be sustainable. But if you like, then you need to go. So it depends on what you're doing. But you have a good point there. It's like you need to think about where you're putting it. And we can be super nerdy about vowels and belting too, because there's definitely vowels that are easier or harder to belt on. But we're not going there today.
Try to belt on a Swedish E.
Exactly. It's hard. So but but what you're talking about also is we want to be able to take the belt like from our lower mid range to like really high, and we do need to adjust our vocal tract shape, like what we're doing with all our stuff and our tongue and our spaces in there. And also we need to thin out the vocal folds as well as we go higher up. We can't bring those thick things, but we will adjust things to make it sound as big. So we will have it sound even, or however we want it to sound throughout the range. But this cricoid tilt is still like the little base thing, the little fundamental that always will follow in the belt, if that makes sense. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Was that understandable? Was that easy to understand? Let me know. Or do you have any questions?
That was really easy to understand. Thank you. You're super interesting.
And I will put the link to the training in the comments in case someone wants to sign up for it. And also you can just go to my profile and the link is also there, I think, or on my Instagram profile if you have a hard time finding it.
Thank you.
Thank
that
you.
would be great. So I will take over from here, and you have already been talking about that, but when you belt, the pressure inside your body changes quickly. So if you put too much air pressure on your vocal cords, you get a high larynx placement, and this will make your voice sound tense and shouty. So that's screaming, and we don't want screaming, as you were talking about, Matilda and Anna. We want the call. So you need to be able to consciously contain that air pressure. So in a sense, you don't need as much air to belt. You just need to learn how to compress your air by narrowing your vocal tract and add that pharyngeal sound, which makes it easier to belt in a high register. So we were talking about different sounds. Anna, you asked Matilda about that. And that is also really important to be using that pharynx, that resonator. And it makes it easier to belt in a high register when your voice really wants to switch over to head voice. So that is the real struggle for me anyway, when you go up higher in register. So I'm going to talk about two things that I think are important when it comes to singing and belting, and that is air pressure and cord tension. And of course sound as well, but I'm just going to talk about air pressure and cord tension for now. They both affect how well you belt out a song, and air pressure makes your voice louder, and cord tension makes the pitch of your voice higher or lower. And you want these two things to be in balance so that your voice sounds good when you sing, so it doesn't sound shouty. If they're not in balance, you get that close throat and that screamy sound, and we don't want that. So you need to be able to consciously contain that air pressure. And we're going to use a stop consonant as a way of building interior pressure. So we are going to say the letter B. B. So we're going to line up as if we're going to say B, but we won't actually say it, just building up the pressure, interior pressure. So this is called a stop consonant, and it allows us to exaggerate some air pressure and feel it very pointed and very ready to go. So this will give you conditions for a nice belt. So let's say B, but we're not going to say it. Just say it, but hold it in and build up the interior pressure. So say B. Again, do it a couple of times. Just say B and don't release. Just build up the pressure. So can you feel that the air pressure is ready? It's very focused and intensified, and it's ready to go right there on the lip, but you won't release it. Can you feel that? So when you stop the air pressure from coming out, pay attention to what happens in your lower abdominal area, your support muscles. So say B again without letting it out. Just build up pressure with your lips. And focus on the area below your belly button. So can you feel your muscles working down into your pelvis and engaging your genital muscles? So do that again with a B. And it's really important to have a solid foundation in your breath support when you are belting. It is almost like you are sitting on the toilet and doing number 2. So poop push, if I may call it that. So try that poop push. So do a few more B's without releasing. So you should feel how you can generate pressure and also control it. So that's very important in belting. And the next step is to release the B. You build up the pressure before you release the B, like this. B. Breathe in. B. Build up the pressure and then release. B. Do that a couple of times. B. B. So you are containing that air pressure in your body, and you're not squeezing up the neck to do it. So just holding the air back. And this is called resistance. Do that one more time. B. Good. The next step is core tension. And it is important to remember that everything needs to be balanced. So as we continue with the B sound, we're going to pair it up with E. So like in eat, E. This will allow your vocal cords to release the sound without the sense of screaming or shouting. So pick any tone in a comfortable range and remember to build up that pressure before you release. Like this. B, B, B. Do it in your own pace and do it a couple of times and try to take a higher tone. B, B, B. So, how does that feel? Was it easy? So, we can do this in a more advanced exercise. And now I'm going to include my piano. So I hope you hear me now. And we are going to use B. So to do a push with the lower abdominals into your pelvis and engage your genital muscles for every B. So it's really important for you to do that. So breathe in. B, 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 B. 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 Good. So when you get more advanced, you can do longer tones, but it is still important to build up pressure before you release. And if you feel any discomfort, don't go so high in range. Just keep practicing in a lower register and develop one tone at a time. And this can take some time to master, but it's better to take it slow and correct to avoid any damage on your vocal cords. So let's try this technique on a really belty song. And we will try this on a song called Shallow. So I hope you have heard that song. And you can Google the lyrics if you want. And this sound like this. I'm going to focus on the chorus. I'm on the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. I'm on a deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. So, we are going to focus on the chorus. And when you are singing with high pressure, you need to connect your back muscles between your shoulder blades. And I want you to roll your shoulders back and imagine that you are squeezing lemons with your armpits. Or you can put up a palm and press your fist against your palm just to connect those back muscles. So it is really important that you feel engagement between your shoulder blades. And if you don't, just roll your shoulders back and your chest must be tall and raised. So let's start out in a lower key and work our way up. So we're going to sing on B for now. So the melody on B. Are you ready? Breathe in. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Again, breathe in. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. So we take it in this key. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Again. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. So good. Remember to build up resistance before you release the B and focus on the toilet push so you really work with your lower abdominals. So now we try to sing the lyrics. And now it's really essential to connect your back muscles when you think that you are running out of air. Shoulders back, palm against your fist, and squeeze lemons under your arms, whatever works for you, but you should connect your back muscles. And before we start, don't breathe in too deep. Just take a little breath and start singing the lyrics because we don't need a lot of air. Too much air will create tension in your vocal tract, so you need to work with those back muscles. And when you feel the need to breathe, just connect the back muscles and you have more air left in the lungs to work with. So I will count you in for 4 and you will take a small breath on 4 and start to sing on 1. So I will demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe. And then you start to sing. So 1, 2, 3, breathe. Okay, so let's do with lyrics. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off on the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. Again. I'm on the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. Good. So we try to do a higher key, and now I want you to look up a little bit as Matilda was explaining. So look up to the gods. So, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, breathe. Off on the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. One last time. Off on the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. Yay! So, any last words from my lovely colleagues?
Thank you for today. It's good to be back.
It's
Thank
good to be
you.
back. Yes. So, see you next Thursday at the same time. So, bye for now.
Bye for
Bye
now.
bye.
Bye for now.